Hi everyone, this is Cherry, a success coach and academic advisor at Bunker Hill Community College, and I am here to talk to you about financial aid. And I just want to say first and foremost that if you have any specific questions about financial aid, I always recommend that you talk to Student Central first. But so this is going to be a very general and brief overview about how financial aid works, just so you have a better understanding of what to ask when you talk to Student Central. So financial aid is a pretty straightforward process, but there are many steps to it. So many of you have probably heard about the FAFSA. It stands for the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. This is, unfortunately or fortunately, depending on what your situation is, for green card holders as well as U.S. citizens. Um, International students sadly cannot apply for this. And so that's going to be step one, is completing the FAFSA. After you complete the FAFSA, you'll get an email that says, congratulations, you filled out the FAFSA. And normally what happens is that the federal government, the people who process the FAFSA, will actually run their calculations, run their math, and give you what they call an expected family contribution. And that's what the federal government thinks that you can pay for school. That's not always accurate. The number can be a bit large for some folks, or maybe even zero for some folks. But that's the calculation that the government uses. After that, it gets sent to Bunker Hill Community College. And that's when they start working on your financial aid package. One of the most common misconceptions about federal financial aid is that it takes 2 or 3 days. And that is just not true. Sometimes it can take, the fastest I've seen is about a week, but usually it takes a month, much longer than that. And that's because of all these steps that I'm about to go through. So like I said, the first step is filling out the FAFSA. Next is that the government's going to calculate it. This is going to be when you get another email that says, congratulations, your FAFSA has been processed. And that's the moment that it gets sent to Bunker Hill. Before that, Bunker Hill has not seen any FAFSA documentation. So after Bunker Hill gets your FAFSA, gets your number, they most likely are going to ask you for a series of verification documents. And what that means is that they're going to ask you for potentially a tax form, for a form that documents who lives in your house, things like that. Pretty simple forms that they just want to verify with your FAFSA. And so once you do steps 1, 2, 3, and 4, that's when you get your financial aid package. So it's important to know that it takes a while for you to get your FAFSA processed or your financial aid processed. And that's why we always tell students to do it as soon as possible. Especially because, like I mentioned in another video, your bill is going to be due at a certain time whenever you register for classes. So if you want financial aid to pay for classes and you don't want to pay out of your own pocket, it's important to start this process as soon as possible. So I'm going to show you right now how to check the status of your financial aid on your self-service. Well, actually, before we start that, my bad. You'll see right here, this is actually going to be how to start the FAFSA. It's this website right up here called studentaid.gov. You just start here, you'll enter in your social security number, and you'll start that process. And then you'll come to see here on self-service. So on self-service, you're going to go ahead and click the financial aid box, which is right there in the red circle. You can also click this one on the left-hand side, and that should bring you to this page right here. And there are a few things that I want you to check when you get to this screen. So the first thing is obviously you can always click financial aid home on the left-hand side. But the second thing I want you to check is the year. So this one is my friend Sarah. She's not a real student, but this is an old application, right? So you'll see right here, this is for fall 2018, spring 2019, and summer 2019. You're going to want to check for the year that you were looking for. So let's say you want to check your financial aid for next fall, fall 2020. You're going to want to make sure this says fall 20 spring 21 and summer 21. But you'll see right here for the fall 2018 year, my friend Sarah did not fill out the FAFSA. And so you want to make sure you go back to that website, the studentaid.gov, and check if Bunker Hill was one of the schools that you sent your FAFSA to. And if it is, then you can contact your success coach or Student Central to make sure that it's in your account. But normally if you submitted your FAFSA, this will be checked green. And the next thing you're going to want to check for, remember I talked about those verification documents? This is going to be next, complete required documents. Right here, that required documents, there's usually a link. You can see what you don't have complete. For the fall 19, my friend Sarah, she actually completed all of her documents. And this is very important to note, so I'll make sure I'll say it twice. If your financial aid documents are complete, but you don't have financial aid on your account, your classes are all set, right? So your classes are going to be secure. Say that one more time. Your classes are secure as long as your financial aid documents are complete, even if you don't have aid. So it's really important that you check your required documents. I'll highlight it right here to make sure that your documents are complete, because your financial aid application is not complete until these documents are all here. Usually you'll see incomplete here and complete here. All right. And then the next, last but not least, is under My Awards. You'll actually see a letter here usually. It's usually a downloadable link where you can see how much financial aid you'll be getting for full-time status. And it's important to know that just because the letter is based on full-time status does not mean that you can't get financial aid if you're less than that. They'll just adjust your aid accordingly. So a very popular example I like to use is that if you get $100 for 4 classes and you decide to take 2, your financial aid will get adjusted to $50. So they're going to adjust based on how many classes you're taking. So a lot of students feel like they have to be full-time to get financial aid, and most of the time that's not necessarily true. So this is something you can actually check here on My Awards. And then last but not least, if you have a financial aid award, you can always check under account activity on the left-hand side or the right-hand side to make sure that it's applied to your bill. Because when you look at your bill, it's going to say class payments, or how much money you need to pay for class, as well as how much financial aid is applied. As academic advisors, we actually can't see this on our end. So if you email me and say, Cherry, can you look at my financial aid? I actually don't have access to this. So it's very important, if you're talking to your success coach about financial aid, that you send any pictures that you can. You might want to send the financial aid picture, or you might want to send your award letter, and we can talk to you about that. But if you have any specific questions about documents, that's going to be when you talk to Student Central. Hope you find this helpful.